Yeah, so that's a deep question. The Titan protocol is actually going to be changing names. We're going through a rebranding process because there's been some naming collisions on the name Titan. So we're leaving the name Titan for our pool company and our management software and more software as a service type offerings. We're actually going to be rebranding the protocol and network under the name Lumerin. So Lumerin, which is the protocol formerly known as Titan, is really focused on routing and optimizing profitability around hash rate. So the general narrative goes like this, where early on in the crypto world, we started seeing ASICs come online 2012, 2013, and we started getting more and more specialized hardware in the space. The fear was if you started getting specialized hardware in the space, that it would start eliminating or being the enemy of decentralization, because the security and the decentralization of these networks relied on a lot of people from a lot of different areas around the world contributing hash rate or mining, competing against each other. Now, if you had specialized hardware, it started eliminating the amount of people that could actually participate in the mining process, and it would actually eliminate or fight against decentralization. So the general premise was you started seeing more and more algorithms coming out to fight against having ASICs, and they call them ASIC resistant algorithms. So we would see CPU algorithms and GPU algorithms, but anything to avoid specialized hardware, because we always linked specialized hardware to centralization. Well, with Bitcoin, we started seeing this early on, where we had specialized hardware in the form of ASICs, and we would have large miners investing hundreds of millions of dollars into these devices, and then we'd have warehouses and data centers popping up around the world with tens of thousands of these ASIC devices in them, and that became a node of centralization, or a centralization of the hash rate that backed the Bitcoin network. So we saw this trend getting worse and worse through the years, where now the majority of the world's hash rate resides in the control of just a few large entities. So we wanted to take a step back and really think through this problem of how do we decentralize a network when we can't decentralize the devices on the network, because these devices are always going to congregate around three main things. It's cheap electricity, favorable government regulation, and stable infrastructure. And really, anywhere in the world you have a combination of these three items, you're going to start seeing a more centralized hash rate. And that's exactly what we see right now. So Texas is becoming a hotbed for mining, really around cheap electricity, good infrastructure, and favorable government. So we're not going to get around that. So the premise of the paper that I wrote in 2018 was the idea of decentralization of control. This idea that if we can decouple the creation of hash rate from the control of hash rate, then we can essentially keep these networks decentralized, regardless of where in the world the actual devices reside. And a big proponent of the decentralization of control is we need a protocol or network that can actually control hash rate according to rules found in a decentralized ledger. And this is the simple architecture that we came up with, was pairing a TCP/IP proxy router with a EVM smart contract engine. And now we actually can route data streams based on smart contract rules. So the smart contracts being the decentralized mechanism, and then the routing layer being the control mechanism. It's a fairly simple architecture, but once you achieve it, it really opens up hash rate to be treated as a decentralized commodity.